So today we learn how to use some of the basic tools, but use them in different ways that I think you'll find to build something as simple as this pencil. And it is simple, but there are, as I explained a moment ago before I started recording, there are efficient ways and less efficient ways of working. Okay? Some of that might be using a grid. Some of that might be using rulers. Some of that might be using some of the tools themselves to be able to create really precise sized objects. And there's a variety of ways of resizing and doing all sorts of things that will in order to build this. Okay, so I'm going to here's a key command to access the hand key from or the hand tool from wherever. You hold down the space bar. And notice that it turns to the hand, and then I can click and drag, and I can move this over, and then I can click on the lower right hand corner and resize the window. So I have this here for reference. Now I'm going to go ahead and put this down here. So I still have my layers, but they're just so it doesn't take up quite as much real estate. Move my toolbox, and I can hide. Actually, I should probably quit Flash, shouldn't I? Okay. There we go. I should spend some time in cleaning up my desktop, huh? Looks kind of messy. Okay, so to start with a brand new file, anybody remember? Two ways of doing it. Blank sheet of paper. Command N, or that's N is in new, or file new. Key command. Command key is the Apple key. Remember that it brings up a dialog box, and we'll name it pencil. Want letter size paper. I'll leave it vertical, and I'm going to leave all of the other, quote, advanced settings just the default settings, and I click OK, and I have my brand new window. But notice it covers up the other document. In CS4, that won't be the case because they use tab browsing or tabbed. I guess it's not tab browsing, but because they utilize tabs, now you can view multiple documents at once, and they don't cover one another up. If you want. But again, I can move this over like so. I can resize this so I can have both of them visible at any given time. And if this gets covered and you can't grab it, hit the tab key. The tab key turns off all of your tools temporarily. I can move this down, hit the tab key again, and it brings them back. So if you accidentally hit the tab key and you wonder, where did everything go, it's still there. Okay? So in order to create this pencil accurately, this is what I want to make right here. I'm going to start by bringing out rulers. There's a couple of ways of doing that. I can go to View and select Rulers. Now you'll see on this window they're already visible. But if I select this file and I go to View and I look at rulers, instead of Hide Rulers, it says Show Rulers. The keystroke equivalent is Command R, or Apple R, R for rulers. Sometimes the key commands make sense, sometimes they don't. For some of the basic ones, they really make sense. Command S, S for save, Command O for open, Command W for window. There's a bunch of them. But there's a bunch of them that just you have to memorize if you use them frequently. Okay, so show rulers, and I want to make sure that it's in inches. One of the things that Illustrator does, and I'm not quite sure why it does it, is that you'll notice to the left on the horizontal ruler that it starts in the corner from 0 over, which is what I want, but you'll see from the top it starts from 11 and it goes down to 0 at the bottom. I've never understood why it does that. If you want to change this, you can move the settings of the rulers at any time. So this is how you do it. You need your eyes up here. you move the cursor in the upper left-hand corner, right in this blank square. You click and you drag, and it pulls out these crosshairs. I have not let go of the mouse yet. Wherever I release the mouse will be where the 0, 0 coordinates are. So I'm going to move it to the corner. When the vertical and horizontal match the edges of the paper, I release, and now you'll notice it starts from 0 here and 0 there. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 11. Okay? Again, just a preference, and also to show you how you can edit things. It would be nice also to have a grid to help me to align things, to help me size things. To view the grid, I go to View, I go to Show Grid. That's Command double quotes. Got to memorize it. I don't know where double quotes comes from. Now we have a grid. This grid can be customized too. Now you'll notice that there's one main stroke for every inch, and it's subdivided 8 times. So that means each of these little units is 1/8 of an inch. So now we're ready to start to build our pencil. Okay? A couple of ways I can do this. Let's start by selecting the rectangle tool. And I want to select the default settings. I want a white stroke, and I want a white fill and a black stroke. To do that, I come down near the bottom of my toolbox, and you'll see here default fill and stroke. See, it's right above the box for fill and stroke. It's this little button right here. Does everybody see that? And when I click that, if you have something different, it will reset it. If I want to invert the fill with the stroke, I click on the button to the right, and you'll see how it flips it. If I want to invert them again, I click again. Whichever I want to change, the fill or the stroke, I need to click on it to bring it to the foreground. And then it will change. Okay. So now I'm ready to build my shape. One other little thing that I would like to have available to me, a little window. And it's going to be Window, and let me see where it is along here. I want the Transform window available. I use this a lot. Okay, if I want to put this in here, I can, or I can also put it over to the side. And I can close it and hide it. And there's also the Align tool, the Pathfinder tool. I use these a lot, so these are extremely useful. Okay, so I'm going to use just the free selection tool in combination with the transform tool. So this is one way to work. So I'll select the box. Really doesn't matter where on the page you select, but I'm going to click and drag, and I want it to be 3/4 of an inch by 1 inch high. And I look like I'm getting pretty close, and I release, and with the box selected, you'll notice when I look in the transform window, it tells me the width and the height here. They're close, but no cigar. You'll notice that the width, that's what W stands for, is 0.7639 inches. How is that for precision? So what I can do now is highlight the last 3 digits, and I can type in a 5. And I can hit the Tab key, and it's now exactly 3/4 of an inch, and I mean exactly 3/4 of an inch. It's a little bit longer than 1 inch, isn't it? So what I can do now is I can highlight the last digits again and delete them. And I can hit the Tab key, and it resizes it, and now this is exactly 3/4 by 1 inch. It is perfectly 3/4 by 1 inch. I can also determine where the X and Y coordinates are too. Where this sits on my page. I can move it freehand by using the selection tool, and I can move it anywhere on here. And notice as I change it, it updates here. You'll also notice to the left of the X and Y that there is a box that looks similar to what we see on the outside of this box. You'll notice that there are a total of 9 points. each of these represents what you see here. If I want to place the upper left-hand corner, well, let's place the center of this. Let's do that. I'm going to say I want it exactly in the middle of my page. Or how about the center? I want this to be in the absolute middle of my page. So I select the center button, and I go ahead in here. And since my page is 4 or 8.5 inches, then I need half of that, so that's 4 1/4, right? So that's 4.25. And that moves it over. That's exactly in the middle. I want it to be 5.5 inches down. So once again, I'm going to hit I want it to go minus. So I go minus 5.5, because that's half of 11. And I hit the tab key, and it moves it down. So this is exactly, the center of this is exactly in the middle of my page. A pretty efficient way to work if you want to be really, really precise, or you need to be precise. So I have now the rectangle that defines the outer perimeter of just the wooden part of my pencil. Now, pencils are hexagons, octagons, octagons. They're 8-sided. 1, 2, 3, and then the sides we don't see, so yeah, it's an octagon. So now I want to create a box, a concentric box, one that has the same height, and this, you know, it has the same height and the same, you know, it shares the same bottom line. So I could go ahead and make another box, and I could try to nudge it and fit it in there. But there are better ways to work that allow you to work quickly and efficiently. So I'm going to zoom in so I can see a little bit more efficiently. The way I'm doing this is I'm holding down the Command key and the space bar. I'm moving the mouse in the center, and I'm zooming in so I can see this clearly. Okay. The other thing that I might want to have on is that I can go to View, and I can select Smart Guides. I want to have that turned on, so that when I roll over the edge, even if this box is not selected, you'll notice that when I roll over it, you'll see that I can see the center of it. There's a little blue center mark. And that will be important for creating the concentric box. So I'm going to select the rectangle tool again, and I'm going to move over the center until it tells me the crosshairs are on the center of my box. Now, instead of just clicking and dragging, notice how it makes it diagonal by default? That doesn't help me. But if I hold down the Option key, notice that it makes my box from the center out now. And when I roll over the edge, notice how the edge of that box highlights. So now I can move this like so until it resembles the width, the height matches, and the width doesn't have to be precise, but it in proportions match what I see in the pencil. And when I get that, I can release. And you'll notice that when I go over the side here, it gives me the width and the height. The width is 0.4167 inches. That's okay, I don't care. The height is important because I want it to match the other box. That's 1 inch. So you'll see by using those smart guides and by creating the shape from the center outward, I was able to do that very efficiently. Yes? You go to View, Smart Guides, and then you hold on that and release, and then the checkbox will appear. Command U is the keyboard equivalent of turning them on and turning them off. So now I'm ready to take the next step, and I'm going to make the eraser head for it. Now, I'm going to make my pencil a little different from theirs, but it will still demonstrate the same point. We're going to use the same tool. We can use the rounded rectangle tool if we want. So that's a variation of it. And when I click and I drag, you'll notice that it does have radial corners, but they may not be the size that I want. If I want to just guess at the size of the corners and increase the size or decrease the size of those radial corners, I can do so. Before I release the mouse, I can hit the down key, and notice that it removes the corners. I can hit the up key, and every time I hit it, notice that it gets more and more rounded on the fly. And then when I release it, I have rounded corners. That's one way of doing it. Another way is to select the tool and to hold down the Alt key or Option key, and then click anywhere on the keyboard, and it brings up a little dialog box. Now, I'm doing this from memory, so if I'm wrong, then I'll have to make corrections. But what I want the width to be, okay, is the same as the pencil. So that would be 0.75. But I think, no, we want it a little bit wider because we have the rounded corners. I can't remember. Shoot. I told you I'm trying to do this from memory. I think it's 0.8 by 0.8. And I think I want 0.2 for the corner radius. You know, if it's not exact, it's fine. And I get it. And now I can move this over and down. And now I can use my arrow keys to nudge it in place. Now, it's a little bit too large. I would rather have it 0.75. So I can do that. I can leave the center where it's at, and now I can go ahead and I can change the width and the height from here if I wish, and instead of 0.8, just put 0.75. Okay, that works pretty nice. And then put the same here, 0.75. And the radius looks pretty good. And now I can use my arrow keys again. Whoops, I didn't want to do that. I don't want to rotate it. Select it and go ahead and move it down until it matches. Okay. Now I'm ready. Yes.
Sorry, what's the radius again?
I put it 0.2. You know, if it's less, if it's more, the one in here is less. I want something that looks more like a rounded tip. It's not important. It's more important that you know how to get there and know how to make their changes. So now I'm ready to make the little bands that go around the side, and I'm going to use the same tool. I'm going to go ahead and select this tool. I'm going to hold down the Option key and click. And I do want, this time, 0.8, 0.8. So it's a little bit wider, a little bit broader. Corner radius, if I remember correctly, is 0.05. It's a teeny tiny little radius. No, that's not right. Okay, so I'll delete it. Close but no cigar. Click again. The width is 0.8. The height, I believe, is 0.1. That looks right. Okay. And again, I'll use the Move tool, and I'll just go ahead and move it in place. And when it rolls over the edges that I want, you'll notice that they highlight. And then I once again can use the arrow key to nudge it in place. Up, down, left, right. Now I'm ready to make the second, and if you want, a third band. And they are identical in size. So the old way of doing it would be to select it and hit Command-C for copy, and then Command-V for paste. You could also hit Command-C for copy and Command-F for paste in front. But that puts it directly in front of the existing one. So I could hit Command-C or Apple C, and I could hit Command-F for paste in front, and it doesn't look like anything has changed, does it? But as soon as I move that, you'll see that there's a duplicate of it there. So I could do that, and I could use my arrows to nudge it in place. That's another way. But now I'm going to show you yet again another way to copy and to move it. We're going to use the existing one is our base, and we're going to make copies of it. And I want to make sure that the second one is exactly the same and it's perfectly aligned. To make sure that to copy it, I click and I drag, and as I'm dragging it, I hold down the Option key. And as I hold down the Option or Alt key, notice that the icon changes to a double arrow, one black, one white. That lets me know that as I drag this, I'm making a duplicate of it. To make sure that as I move it, that it's perfectly vertical, I hold down the Shift key as well, and you'll feel it lock into a vertical low place. And when I get it over the edge, I can release. If I want to do that again, here's yet another way to make an exact copy of it. If I'm happy with the placement of that, I can hit Command D. Command D as in dog stands for duplicate, and watch what happens. I have another one that moves it the same, takes that, copies it, makes the same copy of it. Pretty cool, huh? So now you've done this, done the same thing 3, 4 different ways. Which way is the best? It depends on the circumstances and what you feel comfortable doing. Okay? And look at how precise everything is. Now, not everything that you're going to do on here is really precise, but having said that, to have that kind of control, I think, will free you up when you want to do something loose, and then you decide at the moment, well, I want to be more efficient about the way I work so I can minimize the time that it takes to do a particular project. Not necessarily for my class, of course, but what if you're doing it for a client? And if you're being paid by the project, not the hour, you want to do the project in as few hours as possible, because you get the same amount of money, whether it takes you 1 hour or 10 hours, right? Why spend more time? Now we get to the point where we're going to make the point of our pencil. So how do we make sure that this guy lines up and also is a triangle? This is how you do it. We're going to go ahead and we're going to select the polygon tool. And by default, if I move over the edge here, let me deselect to make sure that nothing's selected. I move over here, I can see where the center is. So I can hold down the Shift key, and I click, whoops, I didn't want to do that. Make sure that the polygon is selected. And I click and I drag, and you'll see that it makes it in exactly that center. And I'm going to make sure that this 6-sided polygon matches the edge that I have, so I know it's the right width. Did everybody see how I did that? That you just pull it out, and when it matches the edge, you can see that blue line appear in that outside a box again, and when it matches it, then you know that you have exactly the same width. Now I need to turn this into a triangle, don't I? So leaving my mouse in this position, hitting the down key, now I have a triangle. I hit the down key 3 times, and that went from a hexagon to a triangle. Now I need to move it down. If I hold down the space bar, notice that it slides into place. I get it exactly where I want it, and I release the mouse, and voila. Again, a lot of these will take time for you to get acclimated to it. It's like patting your head and rubbing your stomach at the same time. You're using key commands, you're using the mouse, but when you get them to work for you and it works efficiently, it's really super. You can speed up, you could be not only more efficient in that it's time saving, but you can also be more accurate in what you're doing, if that again is the desired. It's easy to be sloppy, but to be accurate sometimes takes work, and this helps to minimize the work. Now I need to make the lead part of the pencil. So what this is similar to what we did here, but it's with a slight variation. you'll notice that this triangle in here shares the same angle of the triangle of the wood, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to use the scale tool. And there's a variety of ways that you can use the scale tool. If I just click here and then I move outside and I resize it, notice that it scales that, but when I release, it scaled that one. That doesn't help me. I need to make a copy of it that is reduced in size. So this is how you do it. You hold down the Option key and you click at the point of the bottom point of the triangle. And what that does is it does two things. It brings up a dialog box that allows me to scale it to a precise size. It also moves the scale point from the center to that bottom point. It's going to scale from that point. So now I can go ahead and click, and it brings this up. I want uniform scaling, and I want it to be 30%. And I can preview it, and voila, I have, this will become my lead or the pencil point. But if I click OK, all it's done is take the existing triangle and reduce it in size. That's not what I want. I want to make a copy of it. So it leaves the original intact, and it enables me to make a copy of that original and reduce it in size and determine where the scale point is. So now when I click copy, boom. So now I have another triangle that lies within this larger triangle that is a perfect match. To actually scale that on your own and to nudge it with the arrow keys and to get it to match that perfectly is really, really hard. It's easier to do it this way. Now I got my pencil. Yeah. The point? Okay. Okay, you select the scale tool, and you can also double click on the scale tool, and what that will do is to allow you to scale it from here, but it doesn't allow you to change the point from which it scales. It just scales from the center by default. So that's not what I want. It's a slight variation of that. What I do is I hold down the Option key or Alt key, as the case may be, depending on whether you're using the Mac or the PC. Move the cursor to the place where I want it to scale, which is the tip of my pencil point, and I click once. Now it moves that scale point and it brings up that dialog box. Now once again I can select 30%. For uniform scaling I can select turn off and turn on preview, and now I click on copy as opposed to OK. Now I got it. Now it's done. Now all I have to do is select each of the shapes, and I can come over here and I can make sure, for example, the fill is selected, and maybe I want to select a nice pink in here, or maybe I want to click from here. So I change the fill color. I can select the fill color down here, and I can select maybe this orange here. Now that's changed. Now I'm going to select this one. I'll also select the same orange, but maybe I want it a little bit lighter, so I can hold down the Option key up here, and let's move it over to the yellow a little bit. No, I don't want to do that. That's not working. What to do, what to do. Let me hold down. Let's go ahead and change it a little bit so it's a little bit more yellow from here. Now I've changed that on the fly. And if I want to now make this color a part of my palette, all I have to do is click and drag it on here, and now it's in here. I can take the tip and I can fill it with black. I got it. If I want to add the little squiggle that they have here, slightly different approach. I need an anchor point here to do that. To do that, I'm going to select the pen tool, and I want the tear off tab, and here is this little pen nib with a plus sign. That allows me to add anchor points. So now what I can do is click here. It adds an anchor point. I can use this tool. Don't worry about adding the squiggle, by the way. It gets too complicated for us right now. I can go ahead and I can click on it, and it pulls out the tangent handles, and now you can see that I've added my squiggle. So don't worry about that, okay? Thought I'd show you anyway, though. So my pencil is done. The next step is to play with some of the other shapes that we have in here. You'll notice, make sure everything is deselected, that I can also use the polygon tool to make stars as well. Because if I click here, oh, I'm sorry. That's not true. I have my star tool. I'm thinking of another program. Never mind, never mind. And so if I want stars, because if I click here and hold down the space bar, you'll notice that there's some stars in here. And if I click and I drag over here, here's a 5-sided star. If I click again, if I want one with more, click and drag and I hit the up key, notice it adds more points. If I hit the down key, it removes points. These aren't so important. The other part is, I'm going to go ahead and zoom out, Command minus, and I'm going to hold down the space bar, and what I want to do is I want to make this little cup for you. I'm going to do it my way, not the way the book has told you to do it in the past. Just there's a tool that I like called the Pathfinder Tool, and it really makes things really very efficient when we do it. Okay, so just keep your eyes up here and watch how I do it, and then if you have questions, I'll redo it, and we'll keep recording because I know this isn't taking me that long, and then I'll make sure that it's posted for the weekend so that you can follow along. And if you want to try to do it from the CS4 textbook, it's slightly different. They're making, instead of a pencil, they're making these tools, whatever. You know, I mean, I can show you how they make the gears and stuff. They're using the Pathfinder tool for it. So it's very similar. The process is similar for each of these. Because when you're done with this, right now this is a group so that it behaves as a single object. But if I use the group selection tool, it enables me to select the separate parts. Now it's all these individual little parts. This is kind of awkward. I don't like this, how they've done it. So I'm going to do it my way. So you can see that there are typically 3-4 different ways of doing things. First thing to do is to create the ellipse for the top. Okay, this is the interior of our pencil holder, just to make a cylinder. So I'll go ahead and I'll select the ellipse tool, which is found under our basic tools here. And I'm going to find a point, and I'm going to click and drag and hold down the Option key so that it makes it from here. And I'm going to try to match the perspective that they have and try to match, or the height. Okay? So I have something that's close, and I release the mouse, and it doesn't have the color I wanted. That's okay. I select the black for the fill up here, and I'm going to switch so that it's filled with white, or I could have just gone to default foreground and background, whatever. As I say, sometimes you think clearly and you work efficiently, and sometimes you don't. Now I need to make a duplicate of this for the bottom. So I'm going to select it, drag it, hold down the Option key and the Shift key, and you'll notice that the icon changes. So that allows me to slide it so that it's directly beneath and duplicate it. at the same time. And I release the mouse and I have a copy of it. Okay? So far so good. Now what I'm going to do is I want to make a rectangle that it fits these corner points perfectly, which will be used for the side of this. Well, by having Smart Guides on, I can now switch to the rectangle tool. I can move over one of the side points, and it tells me that I'm over one of the side points. I can do it from up here, it really doesn't matter. And I can click and drag, and when I reach the other side points, it tells me I'm there, doesn't it? So I don't have to measure, and I know that it's a perfect match. Now I can select this. I can make sure that the fill is black, but this doesn't help me. I could also do a crude way of doing this. I could select this one. I could also make the fill for this black, and that's part way there. And then I could select this one, and I could go Object, Arrange, and I could say Bring to Front. And that gets me there too. So it's close, but it's still kind of awkward because I still have these as separate shapes. But I want to join these two together. So let me undo a few steps. I'm going to go ahead and select this one and fill it with black. I don't necessarily have to, but I will, just to show you what happens. So I'll select this one, hold down the Shift key, and select this one. Both of these are selected, and now I'm going to select the Pathfinder tool. It allows me to join the two together, to subtract the front from the back. It allows me to create a difference between the two and let that remain, or wherever they overlap, make that overlap disappear. I want to join these two together to make one single shape. So I click here, and now it joins them together, and I'm going to expand it so it's a permanent change. And now I have a single shape constructed from that rectangle and that ellipse. Pretty cool, huh? Pretty efficient. Now I can do Arrange, Send to Back, or I can select this one, Object, Arrange, Bring to Front, because this does have to remain a separate object. It is best if it is. It doesn't have to. And now I can select both, and so that they behave as one, I can group them together. With both of them selected, Command G. If I want to resize part of this so it's a squattier thing, I can do that. If I want to select it, if I want to make it bigger, if I want to resize it, I can do that. Because it's a group, I can also select the interior shape, and I can reconfigure it as well. So I can select the Group Selection tool, okay, and I can move over here, make sure that this shape is selected, and I can select Free Transform, so just it is selected, and I can select this so that it moves it down a little bit. So if I need to resize it, and at the same time maybe nudge it up, whoops, nudge it up a pixel or two. Okay, and it still behaves now when I select that as a whole box. The Pathfinder tool, I think you'll discover, is a very efficient tool to work, way to work. There's some lynda.com videos that we can watch later in the semester. But a good example of how this would work, and this is one of the struggles of working with vector programs, is that, for example, if I worked with a polygon tool and I started with a triangle like so, and I wanted to create, subdivide this and fill it in with three different colors and have each of those behave independent of one another. I could come with my line tool, and I could hold down the Shift key to constrain, and I could hold down the Option key while I select this and hold down the Shift key to make duplicates, couldn't I? And you'd think, well, the line helps me to subdivide it. So I select the fill, and I go ahead and I fill it, or the triangle, but it fills the whole thing. That doesn't help me, does it? Huh? You can, but it would be less efficient. The Pathfinder tool is the way to go, and when in doubt, divide. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to select all of these, and I'm going to select divide. It cuts those off, and now, because this is a group, I can select the group selection tool, and I can click this one. I can fill it with yellow, and now I can select this one, and I can fill it with blue, whatever color I want. Pretty cool, huh? There are, again, you know, there's just the tip of the iceberg. There's lots of ways of working, some efficient, some not so efficient. Depending on the context, some ways work better than others. Sometimes it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. You know, it depends on how you like to work. So let me look for a minute at the new textbook, because they make something very similar. They make these tools in here. In fact, some things are similar, some of them are not. They use the they do use the Pathfinder tool to make parts of the gear, or the tools, and also the gear, which is pretty cool. And it's a similar thing. If you want to make the end part for the wrench, I could start by making a circle, okay, like so. Now I'm going to go back to the default settings, and then I'm going to put a rectangle on top of it, like so. That looks pretty good. I'm going to move it up so it has. Okay, now I want to cut this out of here. So now I select both, and I use the Pathfinder, subtract front from back, and expand it, and voila, I have the tool that we have in there. Similar way for creating the gears. We're going to cut away parts, and we're going to leave other parts. So they use the star tool to do that. And I'm trying to think, because I don't remember exactly how they did it, so I'm trying to think on my own, how would I do it? Let me see if I can't do it without too much muss or fuss. Okie doke, let's start with a circle. Select the circle here, the ellipse tool. Now I'm going to make a circle, like so. And actually, yeah, that will work for me. Now to make some of the gears, I need to create a star shape inside and cut it out. So that would work for me, I think. Okay? So that we get kind of a zigzag shape. So I'm going to select the star tool, and I'm going to click from the center outward, like so. Now, I probably want a few more gears in here. How many? I don't know. You know. So if I go out to here, maybe we should join these two together. I'm thinking aloud here. I'm going to join these two together and see if it works. Select them both, and I'm going to join them together. So this creates the in part of my gear. Now I want to get rid of the out part, right? So making sure that I have under view Smart Guide still turned on so I can find the center of this. I guess I should expand this too. I probably don't have to, but I should. I'm going to use the circle tool again to cut off the outer part. Move over the center of this. And why can't I find the center? Let's go ahead and select it. And no center here. That's kind of bizarre. Ellipse tool. No center. Maybe it's a different center. Okay, well I'm going to go, here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to click and drag from here, and notice it doesn't match. So for me to get it to match, I'm going to also hold down the space bar and move it. And it will snap into place. And then when I get it in position, I will release the space bar, and I'm in good shape. Now I'm going to go out to here, like so, and release it. And now I'm going to bring this one in the foreground. So I'm going to, wait a minute, what do I want to do here? I want to cut, well, here, I can't think at the moment. So I'm going to say, I'm going to select cut front from back. That's not what I want. So instead, I'm going to now take this one and bring it to the front. Object arrange, bring to front. And now I'll select both once again. And I'm going to do the same thing, front from back. That isn't what I wanted either. You know what? When in doubt, this is probably the crude way of doing it. It's probably not the way the book says it, but I'm just going to divide. Now I can come back from here with the group selection tool, and I can select these. All these shapes that I know I don't need. And delete. And I have my gear. Did I do it like the book? I don't know. But I do know that I know the tools well enough, because it is basically like a jigsaw puzzle, how to figure it out. The next thing that I would want to do is I want to poke a hole in it, don't I? Because if I look at the book, you can see there's a hexagon hole that goes all the way through. That's, again, one of the easiest ones. We go back to our polygon tool, click and drag, try to find the center. I'm going to go ahead and make it hexagon again. Maybe I should just make it a circle first. Pull it out so that I want the same center. I could measure it, but hold down the shift key, hold down the space bar to find the center here. Reduce it. That looks pretty good. Now I can go ahead and hit the down key so that it has the same. So it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Reduce it in size. I guess it is a hexagon. Okay. So now I have both. I select both. And I select subtract front from back. And I cut a hole through it. I can tell that I've cut a hole through it because I can see the grid behind it. When I select it, I can also expand. And now this is a permanent piece. I made a fairly complex shape in a very short amount of time that's pretty accurate. You know, how would you do that otherwise? You're going to take the pen tool and trace something? It still wouldn't be as precise as that. And it's the more you do of this, the more it will make sense of how to use the tools, you know, in combination with one another. The Pathfinder tool I like a lot. In past versions with the Adobe Classroom in a Book, they have not talked about it much, and I wish they would because it's a very powerful tool. And finally, they're bringing it out more. I think they got the hint from the lynda.com tapes, because there is an advanced tutorials that Deke McClellan talks about that we can watch this semester, where he does this little spaceman illustration, and he starts with a sketch a hand-drawn sketch. And then what he does is he used some basic tools the way that we've done and draws and creates very precise things the way I've done with some of these by using the Pathfinder tool in a very complex fashion. You're not going to be able to memorize what he does, but you get a sense of the workflow and how you're going to work when you want to do something like that to work more efficiently and effectively. We'll also watch other illustrators. There's Simone Legno, who does Tokidoki. Anybody fashion conscious and have any of his Tokidoki stuff on skateboards, on purses, all kinds of stuff? His method of drawing is much cruder. It's much more basic, but he's a successful guy. So if it works for him, it's not wrong, it works for him. And we'll watch some videotapes of him during the semester so you can see how he works and see how he designs his characters from concept to completion. Okay? One final thing that we should touch on, and this is a powerful, powerful tool. I've shown you how to draw with the basics efficiently and scale and do some different key commands. They'll have, whether it doesn't matter what textbook you have, they'll cover most of the same things in here. But we have here is the end, here is the beginning. And you'll notice that we start here with a basics sketch. This is a bitmap image of someone who is hand-drawn from a photograph, a snowboarder. But if you want to try to fill parts of this with color in Illustrator, you can't because it is a bitmap. You would have to do it in Photoshop. And then if you wanted to bring the color image over, you could. Or if you plan on scaling this at a later date or changing it, there are better ways to work. And this is something that was introduced, I think, in CS. Can't remember. Not too many versions ago. And you'll notice that when I have this image selected, that it prompts in the panel above, or the dot. I forget what this thing is called. Up here. The live trace feature. So what I can do now is I can click from a variety of settings, and I want this to be a just a hand-drawn sketch. That's what it is. So, and what it will do is it will automatically trace it. Now I have vector graphics. I have choice. I can select expand to convert it into all the individual shapes, and or I can select live paint. If I select live paint, then what I can do, and I could have adjusted the settings for this, notice how each of these highlights in red now. And now what I can do, I could fill the whole thing. We could just fill the whole thing with white if I wanted to, or leave it transparent. And now when I use the tool down here, where are we? Here's our live paint bucket. And when I roll over each of these individual shapes, it highlights in red, and it lets me know that this is going to be a separate fill color. I could, if I already had a palette set up here, and I specify, okay, I have here, I want this red, the red pants here, and I want to make sure it's no stroke. I move over and I fill, and I move over and I fill, and I want to use the blue for his jacket, so I roll over one of the arms and I fill it. Whoops, wrong tool. And I click again. Oh, never mind. Let's select here. I got to make sure that there we go. Okay, now I make sure that I have the fill colors selected. Move over the arm, fill it. Move over this part of the arm, fill it. Move over this part of the arm, fill it. Fill it. Fill it. Fill, fill, fill. Before you know it, it's just like, you know, a coloring book. You've hand colored the whole thing. This is where cartoons or comic book art has dramatically changed. Dramatically changed. They used to have an illustration in here. I don't know that they have it anymore in one of these older versions. It was a very nicely drawn hand sketch. And when it looked like it was there was a lot of finesse taken to the line weights. So you had the really delicate variation from thick and thin lines. And when it did the auto trace, it converted it to a nice black and white illustration that looked like it was hand painted. So that part of it was done. You didn't need the inkers anymore to come in with their India ink and brushes and hand paint on an overlay. And then you use the live trace to come in and to just fill color on top of it, and boom, you're done. It just takes very little time at all. Now we have vector graphics. We no longer have bitmap art. I can zoom in, enlarge it. I can print it the size of a postage stamp or the size of the wall, and it will hold up just fine because the vector graphics are all defined by mathematics, not raster pixels. Okay? So another very efficient way to work, that if you prefer sketching by hand, it's becoming more and more prevalent now with Illustrator to rely less on some of these tools like the pen tool. If you still like drawing the traditional way with a pencil on paper and scanning that and using live trace to trace the image to convert it to vector graphics, that's a nice way to work. There's also in CS4, and I can't wait until I get it loaded on here, is that there's something called the blob tool. And for me, that's worth the price of admission. That's worth the price of the whole piece of software for me. Okay, in CS3, after Adobe purchased Macromedia, they introduced the erase tool. That didn't exist before, because you could only select an object and you deleted the whole object and started over. You couldn't erase parts of it because it's bitmap and vector are like oil and water. They're that different. But it actually began to blend them together. So what I can do here in CS3 with the eraser tool is, what if I wanted to erase a hole right through all of this? I can do that. You could not do that before CS3. It was only because the only program I knew that had this was Flash. And once Adobe purchased Flash, which was owned by Macromedia, they were able to incorporate it into their other programs. Well, they've done the reverse of this. They've created something called the blob tool. So now when you work, you select that blob tool, and instead of erasing, you're painting. But you're painting with vectors. So every time you move the mouse, as long as it's with the same color, it gradually expands and makes that shape bigger and bigger and bigger and refines it. So it's more like painting with a bitmap. But what you're doing is you're painting with vectors, because when I look at this in line view, you can see that it's cut across. These are still all defined by individual shapes, not pixels. You see how they're outlined. So I can't wait until they install the darn thing. It's supposed to already be installed so we can use it, because I think you will find it an extremely useful tool. And that will be another reason not to use the pen tool as much. You might think that the brush tool is like that blob tool, but it's not. Because if I go ahead and I click and I drag, let me go ahead and pick a bigger brush. Window, brushes. There we go. Let's pick a bigger brush. Let's make it 300%. Okay. Hey, come on. What gives here? Oh, no wonder. Command Y, got to turn it off. There we go. I goofed. I'll just leave that like so. So now, and I'll turn off so you can see something else. Turn off Smart Guides. So now I'll use the brush tool again and click again and click again. And you think it's combining into one, but it's not. It's three separate objects. With the blob tool, when you begin to paint this, you'll see, instead of, when you look at it in outline, instead of seeing 3 separate lines, you'll see one separate outline of the whole thing, which is pretty cool. And then, again, by hitting the right bracket key or the left bracket key, you can increase or decrease the size of it just like you can with the eraser tool. See how it's a size, and a specific size, and when I hit the right, see how it enlarges? And when I hit the left, how it reduces. The blob tool will work in a very similar fashion. So that is really exciting. It's another really useful tool. Okay, so there we have it. I'm going to turn off the video recorder, and if you want or need to take a break, you can. And then either work from the CS4 book, or we can copy the files if you need to work. And some of you I see have already done the CS3 version.